Hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in, Miss Shorty. Trace, good to see you in here. Divergent. Welcome all in, and especially a special welcome to my guest, Kresha Easton. Kresha, welcome in.
What's up?
What
How's it
is
going,
up?
everybody? I know, right? There's no other place to look but up. So that's the direction we go.
Right.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for having me again. I'm gonna hide behind my avatar today because I'm having a girl day, okay?
That's
So
perfectly acceptable. The only time that I don't use my avatar, which is Charlie, my BFF that crossed the Rainbow Bridge last July, is when I have guests on that are on camera. Usually I hide behind mine too. So I may do that too.
hey, join them. It's Mardi Gras, so let your freak flag fly. That's hard to say. Yeah.
Boom, there we
Okay,
go.
there
Now
we
we're
are.
just
Me
two
and
avatars.
Charlie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you and Charlie.
2 bubbles, with the whatever. I'm not gonna be able to finish that. I suck at jokes, y'all. I do. Always have.
Well,
So, what are we gonna talk about
my jokes.
today?
What are we going to
Oh,
talk about? Oh my goodness. So, what would you summarize what we talked about last week?
okay. We'll try. I've not been able to do that since July 12th, 2019. So,
Yeah,
but
I
I
get it.
practice every time and I'm like, "No, that's just you can't do it." I don't know. It seems impossible. Um, all right.
So,
Well,
let me give it first. Let me give everybody a case background because there may be some people in here that aren't really familiar with the case and familiar with you. I have a few more actually in my channel this time than I did last time. So,
good.
you
Awesome.
are Charles Vallow's niece, and your uncle was killed when?
July 11th,
Yeah,
2019.
you just said that. So, by
Mhm.
Lori Vallow Daybell's brother, Alex Cox, who's no longer with us, but she is going on trial the end of this month. Like it's coming up fast. The 31st is jury selection is scheduled to begin on the 31st. There will be a
Yeah.
hearing. There will be a
Yeah.
hearing exactly a week from today. I'm going to pull that up real quick just to review that real quick, just to give everybody a case
Yeah.
update. So,
That and Lori will be on her Dateline interview this Friday.
yeah,
Just to taint the jury pool. I don't know. What's her plan?
right.
It's the no
Uh,
plan, I think.
yeah, I'm not talking about that interview a whole lot, but that's probably the bigger news. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't
I
get
don't
how it's
either.
allowed.
I know. She's her own boss, I guess. That I think that's it kind of feels like that's maybe why she even, got rid of her attorneys and decided to go pro se. It feels like that way she could just do whatever Lori wants because that's what she does anyways, you
Yeah,
know?
and I honestly kind of think that may be why there were two doctors that had to evaluate her for
Mhm.
competency last fall because I think she didn't get along with that first doctor. Like maybe they had a personality
I
conflict or
know.
something.
So you got that too? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it seemed like to me too. Um, who
So
knows?
February 27th was this motion to set the status conference. Got to slow down to say that. Set the status conference. A week from this morning, 8:30 a.m. The following shall be addressed: Court TV's camera request and the
She don't like it.
defendant's objection thereto.
I
The
don't know why
defendant
she
filed.
doesn't like them. She's more of an NBC person, I don't know.
I guess.
Weird.
Court TV, you can't come in here, but I'll go do an interview anyway with somebody else.
Yeah, right before my trial.
Right. Then she filed two separate motions for specific discovery. Don't need to go into the details of that. Then the state filed two motions in limine regarding Alex Cox statements and Tylee Ryan hearsay statements. And then they'll schedule the trial and jury selection. I wonder.
Actually, I have to interject here because I mean, I did get some motions, but I didn't really go over them, but so I was watching another channel. This is what I do. I watch other channels and I watch about other cases now, that, I've kind of gotten a grip on what's all going on with the whole case, why we're here, and they were saying something, and I knew there were more things for her court hearing on March 11th. Um, one of them was like to not have Alex Cox's testimony either. And I don't know if that was the state, so I'm gonna pull those documents up too, so I can.
So it's your understanding at this point, without reviewing the document and having it here in front of us, that
Right.
the state wants Alex Cox's statements not allowed
Out.
in?
Because
Okay.
he's deceased or something. Yeah. Let me pull up Justin Lum. That'd be the quicker thing to do. So yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I totally missed that one. It's hard to keep up with this woman.
It is.
It really
It
is.
is. Yeah.
The Journey says to stop, don't stop believing, and I'm like, please stop. so that's less rabbit holes I have to go down,
Yeah.
like, because I chase her beliefs, track them down.
Speaking of
But
that,
okay,
when we
yeah.
talked about the topics we wanted to talk about tonight,
Yes.
let's introduce everybody to the Glen Pace Memo.
Okay,
How
and
does
I
that
can
sound?
do
And
it
then,
actually. Yeah, it'll give us time to pull that up. Yeah, we got this. So I actually have been trying to do it in the context of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. So I kind of wrote something last week, and it's about a page long. So the year was 1990. A chilling document now known as the Glen Pace Memo circulated within the upper echelons of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It detailed horrific allegations of ritualistic abuse, whispers of a darkness lurking beneath the wholesome facade of the Mormon community. Glen Pace was a member of the Quorum of the 70 and had conducted over 60 individual interviews with individuals claiming to be victims of satanic ritual abuse. And so their accounts painted a grim picture of sexual torture, physical violence, and psychological manipulation, often perpetrated by individuals in positions of authority within the church. So this memo was met with a mix of disbelief and denial, and that is still going on today. Many dismiss the allegations as fabrications or exaggerations, unwilling to confront the possibility of such evil existing within their seemingly idyllic community. The victims were silenced, their cries for help ignored, but the whispers persisted. Over the years, more survivors came forward, sharing their stories of trauma and abuse. Their accounts echoed the chilling details of the Glen Pace Memo, revealing a pattern of systemic abuse that spanned decades and crossed generations. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Then in 2019, the horrific murders of Charles Vallow, J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell brought the issue of ritualistic abuse back into the spotlight, at least for me. Okay. The perpetrators, Chad and Lori Daybell, were devout Mormons with seemingly ordinary lives. Yet beneath the surface, they harbored a dark obsession with doomsday prophecies and bizarre beliefs about zombies and demonic possession. And we see this as well with Ruby Franke, Jody Hildebrandt, Tim Ballard, David Hamlin. I'll go into that more in the future, but just put a pin in that. Okay, so as the investigation unfolded, disturbing details emerged about the Daybells' involvement in a fringe group that blended elements of Mormonism with extremist ideologies. Their beliefs and practices mirrored the chilling accounts of SRA survivors, suggesting a connection between the historical allegations and the present-day tragedies. So this unexplored research, my research, delves into the disturbing link between the Glen Pace Memo and the Daybell case, exploring the history of ritualistic abuse within the Mormon community and its potential connections to the murders of my family, right? So it examines the stories of the victims, the complicity of those in power, and the systemic failures that allowed this abuse to continue for so long. Through meticulous research and compelling narratives, this research aims to shed light on the dark underbelly of the Mormon Church and its connection to ritualistic abuse. It is a call for justice, a demand for accountability, and a plea for the protection of vulnerable individuals. It is a story that must be told no matter how uncomfortable or disturbing. All right, the end. So, yeah,
So
there's
that
that.
that was how you have summarized your research so far. And what kind of research is that? It's difficult research.
It
So
is. They put the cult in the difficult. Okay.
yeah.
It's you have to get comfortable talking about uncomfortable things, y'all. I mean, this case is about my family. I've been in so many different forums, so many different chats, live streams, just year after year now. And, everybody can dissect everything else about the case, how the bodies were found, who, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things. There's kids that are murdered. So that's not, easy to talk about. But, I learned a long time ago that you just have to suck it up. And I kind of had to just push through all that and put my feelings aside and say, okay, hold on. I'm doing this for them. I want to know why. I want to know why this happened, how this happened, who was involved. Why does this continuously happen? Because Chad and Lori are just the 2019 version of a long string before them. And I mean, we've seen the Mormon true crime headlines since then. So it's not, it's like, okay, you have to go and find source, and source, you have to identify it. You have to acknowledge it, once you do find it. And then once you do find it, then you can expose that to the sunlight, right? And then that's whenever the disinfectant comes in and maybe cleans that up a little bit. And hopefully kids don't have to die or be murdered or be abused ritualistically. Did I say that right? Yeah. Um, yeah. So this is nonsense. And it's just, I don't see it more as just Lori and Chad just going on a whim. It's more calculated than that, actually. It's more sadistic than that. So it's not a far stretch, in my opinion, for this group that we're going to talk about with when we read Glen Pace's memo. Um, and I think it's going to be a real big eye opener for all the listeners. And then I just want everybody just to think about it, you know, take everything that you know about this case, put it down, think about the kids, if not anybody else, think about the children and then all the ones before them that are unnamed or not known right now. Maybe they have not been found yet. I think these ritual crimes occur way more often than we think, mainly because of the way, there's the separation of the church and the state, which I say supposed to, because I mean, I'm dealing with Mormonism here. So it's oh my gosh, I just went blank. A theocracy. And it's a blend of church and state, in my opinion. So that's been
Well,
really interesting to learn.
that's not just your opinion. That's fact. Like the state of Utah is a theocracy. It's
Is
run by the
right.
Mormon Church. Yeah,
It's
and parts
crazy.
parts of Idaho
That's
too.
scary. You know
Yeah.
how scary that is? Whenever and I'm like, "Well, it's in Idaho, right? Right?" And then, as I was starting to learn about the system, the church system, I mean, because I've never had to delve into these areas of my life before. I've never had to sit here and go, "What does justice mean for me? What does that look like? What does, this?" I just had to really think through all these different um, topics, these hurdles, to understand. And I'm still doing that. And this is difficult research, but it's worth it, y'all. It's worth it because I've learned so many things on my own and I've shared them on my channel. My journey is documented, 800, almost 800 videos now. Um, it's very sporadic, I do have ADHD. I also, have been traumatized a little bit by this and some other things that happened at the same time in my life. So thank you for just, being patient with me, and I'll come back to it. Trust me. I will drop it, but I'll pick it back up. Or just if you would gently remind me, just a little nudge, because that really is helpful. Um, so I'm saying this, that if the Pace Memo would have been addressed back in 1990 or 91, um, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in this situation today. And I think that it goes par for the course whenever you look at not the entire, don't blanket the entire church. Okay. I'm not dubbing everybody as bad apples. I'm just saying the group in and around Chad and Lori, as well as Tom Harrison, Visions of Glory, this whole crowd, it's a movement. They're just different legs of a movement coming out at one time. And the way the court system handles it, it's not like a RICO case yet. I'm working on that. I mean, it's just, and so people aren't putting these pieces together, and my brain cannot help but do that. I'm like, oh, okay. This case comes out. I'm like, oh my God, they know each other. They spoke on the same circuit. They're saying the same things. It's, it's surreal. And I think it needs to be exposed so bad, because
It,
if not for
it,
anything else, it's to get the cancer out.
right.
You
And
know?
I think the biggest challenge that you have facing you, which is why I love having you on, I appreciate having you on, is overcoming the cognitive dissonance that the average
Yes,
person is going to have of not
everyone.
believing that that can exist
Yeah,
systemically. I mean, Mormons are nice people. Most
they
Mormons are
are,
nice people.
but I've seen
So,
some gangsters in there too, okay? And I mean, that's everywhere. That's everywhere. So it's not, oh, there's him. Hey, it's not picking on anybody. I'm just asking if everybody can just remove themselves from, uh, all the things, all the rules, all the things that you've already learned, and you're just dead set on those, ideas of how things went down. I just ask that you consider, these other views that have not been presented, for sure in the mainstream. And for anybody who is a believing, Latter-day Saint, I'm just asking that you, I mean, I would think that you would want to get this rot out too, like, or it could be your child, it could be your niece, your nephew, your uncle. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's work together here. I'm not here to sell you on, a conspiracy theory. I'm here to prove to you that Tylee and JJ are not conspiracy theories. They're reality. And what I need is reality checks right now. I need people to consider the kids that are hurting. So next time something splashes the headlines and you say, "Oh, well, I just didn't see that coming. How did this happen? How did we get here? What?" You can't do that anymore. You can't be ignorant anymore like that, because to turn and look the other way is to silence another victim. So if like, we have to do something about this. It's not a militia or anything. It's just like, "Hey, let's put our thinking caps on and really delve into this really uncomfortable stuff." But if we just get that done, and get to the source, the root of the problem, then we can start working, uh, towards the positive. Right now, it's just crazy. It's
right.
been a battle.
So we can take 2 or 3 baby steps in the positive direction tonight, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we can hopscotch even. It's Mardi Gras. Yeah. So I do appreciate everybody being here and, supporting Joe as well. And everybody from my channel too. Glad to see you guys here. Um, so how do you want to do this? You want
So
me to pull it?
my first question would be like, do you have a copy of that memo, or do you have a newspaper article about it? I mean,
I
how did you
have,
find out about the memo and the
you
details
know,
in that?
it's always been there. Like, it took me a while too, so I understand that it's a process because while they were looking for the kids, they were missing for, like, almost 10 months. While they were looking, I mean, I was prepping to go, search in Yellowstone. I was just trying to study the land and just, because it's a different, it's up north and I'm way over here in the south. Um, and then I've noticed these things, or I'd hear details, especially when they found the kids. Once they found the kids and the remains, were reported, I mean, it was like, "Oh my god, this isn't just murder." This is like they tried to delete Tylee, basically, And still to this day, I don't know if anybody doesn't catch this because it's so much information at one time during these trials. But once you're able to process that, and then you're like, I have more questions than I do answers. And so whenever I think John Pryor had called one of his expert witnesses, which shed a big light on Tylee, how most of her remains they were not found, So where are the rest of her remains? Where did the crime scene happen? It didn't happen in an apartment. She was dismembered. Where did it happen? I want answers, not just pings. I don't want pings, unless it's like, come on now. I mean, they can tell what kind of credit card you carry in your back pocket with all the devices and things they have these days. But it's just a little frustrating because it's so uncomfortable because of the kids and it's just gory, that I noticed that we stop thinking. Remember whenever we heard that Alex Cox, this is according to Melanie Gibb, which, hey, I don't believe Melanie Gibb is innocent at all. That's my opinion. But whenever her and her boyfriend at the time, whenever they testified, they said that Alex carried JJ in and JJ's head was on Alex's shoulder. And everybody, including myself, just stopped. You stop, you like hold your breath, and you're just like, oh my God, he's dead, you know? Like he carried him in and he was dead. But I don't think that's at all what happened. I think that's just it stops you from thinking past that. You just accept it until you do go to trial and you do hear all the details and you do listen to the testimony, you do follow the facts, that's what you're doing. And then you're like, no. This is some really weird stuff going on around these casting lots and this real estate agent who made us laugh and we love him for that. Yes, we do. But I'm also like trying to get through all the thraka, all the poo poo. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And they speak in such word salad. They speak in circles and it's hypnotizing. It is aggravating. It's triggering too. But it's also, if you go back and you listen to a lot of these people, you catch so many more things, that it's just information overload or the inside speak, whether it was any church or any organization, any clique, they have their own inside talk. What I call code, but that's because I've never been a Mormon, so it's like, "What?" I don't understand what you're saying, especially we heard it with Melanie Gibb and Lori at, Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing. When we heard Melanie Gibb on a recording with Lori Vallow, and Melanie Gibb called Lori a core whore. I have never heard that before in my life, okay? I was like, "A what? What? I don't even know what that what?" I mean, it was weird. And I say weird because I was foreign to this, so listening to two grown women who are like grandmothers, okay, battle out in Mormon scripture, I mean, that's gotta be a first somewhere. That's a record, right? Right? It's very different, um, and very misleading. If you don't know the characters they're talking about, a Nephi and Laban ending, you're like, "Oh, I don't even know who those people are," you know? How can you put it into the context of the story, you know?
Right,
Anyways.
you can't, and your cognitive
Mm-mm.
dissonance is just going to filter that out. You're gonna be like, "I
Right.
know, those are
It's
people
just
or characters in a book that I know nothing about, so don't
gibberish.
even
It's
pay
just
attention."
religious gibberish is what a lot of
Yeah,
people chalk it off to, and
right.
they're probably not Mormon either, so it's, interesting. It's a battle. It's a freaking battle just to get through it myself. But I did have cognitive dissonance, a lot in the beginning of this case, especially, like I said, after they found the kids, and then I was like, I had to start entertaining, like, what if it is sacrificial? Um, but how's it religious purposes, Rob Wood, if, they did it for the how do you say it? They espoused, for religious beliefs espoused is how the charging indictment went. And so I was like, okay, all right, there's the religious part. I mean, I know I have to be careful about this. I don't really know the rules of the land, ethics wise. And I didn't know anything about QAnon. That was kind of going on before me. And then I didn't have time to even look it up. And so I'm just like, okay, no, that's definitely not this. I mean, it's just like I didn't hear it from a bunch of people. I did this, like I have dug deep, and I have gone down every rabbit hole, and
So
it
take us down the memo rabbit hole. Take us down that.
all right. Well, I can't. I was talking, so I didn't pull it up, but let me find it.
And
You talk a little bit.
by the
Yeah.
way, I want to acknowledge M on your channel. I love having different people
Yeah.
come in with different viewpoints and being respectful about it. I appreciate
Yes.
that very, very much. And as I've
Me and
said
him
before,
have
I have
this relationship. I appreciate it too because I believe that no matter how opposing we may seem, I still feel like there is a middle ground, and that's got to be the kids. I think that's my plea.
yeah, yeah. There
But
is common ground in the kids for sure.
oh yeah, definitely. Okay, let me type this in. Okay.
Okay. But M laughed at me when I said the churches are or the states are controlled by the church, and I didn't mean that literally. Like the
Yeah.
president of
Right.
the Mormon Church, the president of the LDS Church is not the governor of the state of Utah, but all of those
Well,
positions
but
in power in the state
oh,
are LDS
oh my
people.
God! But I have something to pitch in there that okay. We're gonna eventually learn about Operation Underground Railroad and Tim Ballard, who is the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, an anti an alleged anti-trafficking, um, they go on rescue missions and yada yada yada. I don't really have it in front of me, so I'm just gonna kind of bounce through this. But Tim Ballard was given a couple priesthood blessings actually, by Ken Krogh, which I'll tell you about him soon, as well as visions of glory, inspiration slash, I mean, these were his dreams and visions. Uh, Visions of glory, Tom Harrison. Okay, Tom Harrison and Ken Krogh both gave, and this is in documents. I'll share it. I just can't do it all at once, but in the priesthood blessings, they blessed him to basically, it sounds like the white horse prophecy because they said you're going to be the future president of the LDS church and 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 the future president of the United States. I mean, I was like, isn't that kind of antichristy or kind of horish? I mean, that's very interesting.
It
And
is
he ran
very
for Senate right after that, or was gonna.
yeah.
Hmm? Yeah, let me pull this up. Okay, I'm sitting here just staring at my screen. All right. Oh, nope. It's not it. Let me go back. Okay. Hmm, might just have to Google it. Oh, wait. Whoa. I have so y'all, if you ever wanna know about the case, just go look at my Canva account and you'll know everything. That's where it is. Okay, that's
Yeah.
part 2. I found part 2. My
You
gosh.
got to be careful with that Google machine.
I don't like to Google. I know. I use DuckDuckGo lately. I do. Everybody needs, business for I
Right.
mean, I'm an equal opportunist. Whatever. Okay, I finally got it. Goodness, huh? All right. Let's see. Okay, let me get back over there and then I can present my screen. Yes, yes, you're waiting on me. Okay. All right. Well, I need this to go away. Go. Oh my
Got
gosh.
her in there.
What the heck? Hold on, I'm having like major issues. There we go. Okay, I'll make this larger too. Allegedly. I'm not used to doing it on present. What? Oh, whoa. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so this is official, and I want y'all to know that the Glen Pace memo, it was never intended for the public. It was basic. We'll read about it right here. But it was never intended for public. It was just a report to turn into his Glen Pace's higher, the leadership, and he did. He did his job. Let's read it because yeah. So this comes from the www.utlm.org, which is Sandra Tanner, Gerald Tanner. So I don't know. You want to go or me?
You can go. Or I can read it too, but whichever.
I just
Do you
have to
feel
take a
like you're
sip.
talking too much?
Um, maybe after this. Okay, ready?
Okay.
July 19th, 1990. To the Strengthening Church Members Committee from Bishop Glen L. Pace. So this subject is ritualistic child abuse. Pursuant to the committee's request, so it's a request by the committee, I am writing this memorandum to pass along what I have learned about ritualistic child abuse. Hopefully, it will be of some value to you as you continue to monitor the problem. You have already received the LDS Social Services Report on Satanism dated May 24th, 1989. So he's already, written a LDS, or somebody's written an LDS Social Services Report a whole year earlier. A report from Brent Ward and a memorandum from myself dated October 20th, 1989, in response to Brother Ward's report. Therefore, I will limit this writing to information not contained in those papers. Whew. I have met with 60 victims. That number could be twice or 3 times as many if I did not discipline myself to only one meeting per week. I have not wanted my involvement with this issue to become a handicap in fulfilling my assigned responsibilities. He was actually an accountant, I do believe.
And
So,
he limited his interviews to people who were not included in the memo from the
right.
previous year. Oh my
Correct,
goodness.
correct. This is
Wow.
yeah, it just a lot of people don't wanna believe this, and I understand. I get it. It's about to get rough. Okay. On the other hand, I felt someone needed to pay the price to obtain an intellectual and spiritual conviction as to the seriousness of this problem within the church. So, of the 60 victims with whom I have met, 53 are female and 7 are male. 8 are children. The abuse occurred in the following places: Utah, 37; Idaho, 3; California, 4; Mexico, 2; and other places, 14.
Wasn't
53
there an
victims. Go ahead.
wasn't there an offshoot of the Mormon church that's not related to the mainstream church that he went down and hid in Mexico and was committing all sorts of atrocities? Do you remember
Oh,
that?
Errol LeBaron?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
Is it
first one I researched when everybody was saying cult, 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 and I was like, "Oh, what's a Mormon cult look like?" Like, I don't
right?
even know what a cult looks like, period, at that point. So,
Because
yeah,
when you see Mexico on there, you're like, what? What are they
I
doing
have
down
a
in
theory
Mexico?
for
Or
this. I do have a
okay,
theory for this, but
okay.
we'll get to that. I don't want to
Okay.
confuse everybody.
No, right. Keep it. Sorry,
'Cause
sorry. I did.
I can go
That's
all kinds of different ways. I've been holding
right.
this in for 6 years, okay? Oh, I'm about to burst. Okay. So it's all 60 individuals are members of the church. 45 victims allege witnessing and or participating in human sacrifice. Let's unpack that right there. Just that's pretty profound for it not existing is what I'm saying.
45
For
out of 60. That's 75% of
that's
the
quite a
sample.
bit. Yeah. So that's I've never witnessed one. Have you? Uh,
No,
yeah, right? Okay.
I don't want to.
So
No, thank you.
I know. And I mean, I think this is what Tylee and JJ experienced. I mean, in my opinion, allegedly. I don't know. Okay. So whoa. I suck at keeping my place. The majority were abused by relatives, often their parents. All have developed psychological problems, and most have been diagnosed as having the most hideous of having multiple personality disorder or some form of dissociative disorder. Ritualistic child abuse is the most hideous of all child abuse. The basic objective is premeditated to systematically and methodically torture and terrorize children until they are forced to dissociate. This is the goal. It's not about uh, child. I'm trying not to say the P word, but corn. Okay. It's not about it's mostly not about just adults wanting to have sex with little children. It's about control. It's about breaking them. It's about that's what's going on here with Ruby Frankie. Jody Hildebrandt was a therapist. David Hamlin, a therapist. There's a lot more. Go and look that up. Go to the Floodlit website and just take a gander there, okay? Bring a brown paper bag because you will need it. I'm just saying it's disgusting. And so that's what I used to think that these corn whatever. I hate using substitute words for very serious things, you know? Anyways, so it's not about that. It's about control. And what I believe, what it appears from my research into this, it appears to be, and they will even say it in the Hamblin documents that um, they are training their children and or having others train their children to exist, to function within this inverted, infiltrated, because it's infiltrated. It's not everybody, but I mean, they're equal opportunity employers, they are I'm sorry, perpetrators. Um, they will sit next to you in church. Most maybe will hold a calling and you'll be, they'll be your bishop or whatever, Um, it's just like schools, where are the predators going to be? Where the children are, right? So watch your children. That's all I'm saying. Hold them tight. Let me not veer off any more than that. Let's see. I don't even know where I was. Let's
I
see.
think you were down to the basic objective of it.
Okay. Okay, right here. Thank you. The basic objective is premeditated to systematically and methodically torture and terrorize children until they are forced to dissociate. The torture is not a consequence of the loss of temper, but the execution of well planned, well thought out rituals, often performed by close relatives. Think about that in the context of Lori and Chad and those kids who didn't have anybody else to go to. Think about R. Frankie and E. Frankie, who were isolated as well, didn't have nowhere to go or turn to. And I also want to mention something that I have not seen anybody really ask this question, but in the Frankie case and Frankie Hildebrandt case, after having listened to even Jody Hildebrandt's niece, Jessie Hildebrandt, Adam Steed also has spoken out with his tangles with Jody Hildebrandt. And and then I want you to question whenever the police went to go and at least lay eyes on their Frankie's oldest two daughters while they were arresting Jody and Frankie. I mean, Jody and Ruby down there in St. George or wherever. There was Pam was saying, Pam Botcher, who's also, she's being sued right now along with Ruby and Jody. It's being considered an enterprise by the person suing them. And I think they're onto something. But whenever the cops asked, why she had the girls, she was like, well, I went and got them. I went and picked them up because Ruby called me. And she was like, I forced them to, yeah, something like that. I made them clean my floors or whatever. We have guests coming in from Costa Rica tonight. And I was just like, interesting. That's really interesting. But then when you watch the body cam footage and everything from Jody Hildebrandt's house, the mansion, right? The big old freaking fort. Whenever they pull her out of the house, basically, she answers the door, that big wooden door, and they kind of drag her out a little bit, and she's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's my favorite part. And she says that she has people there, Airbnb. And I'm like, I wonder why she has Airbnb, like I think of Airbnb for people who would provide that. I would think it would be people who need the money. Jody doesn't look like she really needs the money. Pam, maybe, I could see. But I'm just kind of wondering what was going on there. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I'm just asking the questions, because that's kind of what's going on, at least what's being alleged in the Hamblin case. The Hamblin daughters they have alleged that their father trained them. He was a psychologist. He would perform these healing ceremonies, Native American healing ceremonies. He would sometimes give them peyote, allegedly. And there was a network of people that exist allegedly today in southern Utah, in Springville, right there where Chad Daybell and Tammy Daybell raised their children, born and raised, or she wasn't born there. Tammy wasn't born there, but they raised their children there until Chad heard the voice to tell him to move to Rexburg in 2015. And that's when they left that area. He also worked in a graveyard. Okay. And according to the Hamblin statements, they allege that a lot of this group, this network of people, they love to revel and do all kinds of rituals in the cemetery. And I'm like, well, that's just, you can't just have this, that's some pretty profound coincidences, I'm just saying. And then you think about what we're reading right now. And as I continue, it'll kind of catch on a little more about what could be going on here. And is Chad a part of this same group? Does he have his own group? I don't know how that quite works yet. But, I mean, it's interesting because I think that all the people that we are seeing in the headlines and hurting kids and killing kids is because of this group never being brought to justice. It's never brought to court. These victims, these girls, still have not been able to present their case since the 90s. It's nuts.
So it's just my personal anecdotal experience, but
Okay.
in the state of Utah, you have your Salt Lake City Mormons, and then you have the Mormons that live out in the more remote areas. And that seems to be just based on history, where a lot of the fringe stuff develops over time.
That sounds logical, actually, just kind of thinking about that.
Is that where Chad was from? Was he from a more rural area, more remote area?
He was where Ruby and Kevin were from, Springville. That is where Chad Daybell, his family, Tammy Daybell, her family, that is where they raised their kids. That's where he went to school. I mean, And so it's like, okay, when you start doing the geographical research and you're like, well, it's probable, it's a possibility. I'm just gonna, keep that one open, and
Oh,
then as I've
they're not
gone,
that far from Salt Lake City. That Springville's right there outside of Salt Lake City,
okay.
Provo.
I mean, either way, it's alleged that this is in Juab County, Davis County, and San Pete. I thought it was 4 counties, but I mean, as many times as I've seen the news story, and I'm like, oh, it's only 3, and they have another bullet point. I must have thought that was the 4th one, So, and I've talked to someone who is investigating the ritual abuse claims by the Hamblin daughters, and I just wanted to poke his brain a little, like pick at it a little bit and be like, oh my God, I feel so bad even talking about this. It's so hard to talk about, period. And then my thoughts escape me because it is so hard to talk about and I don't quite understand it. And it's not like being talked about everywhere. So it's like, how do I put this? How do I don't want to
Right.
run
I mean,
anybody off or freak anybody out.
here you have it in black and white. Like you have the portal, and I'm going to use that word very loosely. We're not talking
Yeah.
about Lori's
Everybody else
portals, but
does.
we have the portal to get through our cognitive dissonance. We have this in black and white
Yeah, it's
right here in
there.
front of us.
Everybody
Yeah.
dismissed it by throwing a label on it and calling it bad. That's conspiracy. No, no. That's what the Book of Mormon teaches too, about the Gadian robbers, about a group of people that are going to be doing this conspiracy and um, raping and killing and all the things, and not to mention that. Well, I'll get in, that's more doctrine. Never mind. Let me just keep the United Order out of there. But you can look that up if you want to. It just is very reminiscent of what I would think the New World Order looks like now. I didn't know that then, but as I've I wasn't looking for this. First off, let's just know, I just wanted to know really where Chad and Lori's beliefs differed from the church, and here I am, and I'm like, holy crap! When I looked up, I was just like, oh, so this is what's going on. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't know that I would see. I mean, I'm calling it a global conspiracy playing out right now, but that's just my little uneducated opinion. I mean, I've researched it. I don't hold any degrees. I just hold love, it's love for the truth. I want to know why my family was was is destroyed because of this group or these teachings or something. It's not just because Lori looked at Chad's books. I mean, how many books have you read and then went and fell in love with the dang author and killed your family? Okay. That doesn't math for me. Um, Not that I think they're complicated people. I don't think they're complicated people at all. I just think they're really turned upside down. They don't know left from right or right from wrong. And that
Mm.
is scary because what they think they've done in righteousness. They think they are being persecuted and that they are the victim and the child's not, or that we're going after it's a witch hunt. And that is scary on all sides because these people are raising kids. These people are teaching kids whatever. I just really think that the Lord that they worship, they might have them mixed up. And I have something
Well,
to
let's keep
prove
going
that.
down that path then. Let's keep going down that path.
Okay, so like right now or
No, no, well,
oh, okay.
through the memo
I'm like,
first. Let's get through the
I
memo
got
first.
it.
And
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Hold on just 1 second. I have an idea. Oh no, huh? Okay, right here. I'm just gonna read a little blurb. This is from the beliefs of the so-called LDS Church of Satan, this group. They're also called the group, quote unquote, the group, which is written in the Arizona Chandler FOIA docs, the group, the 7 gatherers, the group, they actually say. Anyways, all right. According to victim statement number 2, The group believed that Lucifer was the firstborn of God's children, older than his brother Jehovah. Okay, so just stop right there. Take what I just said. The group believed that Lucifer was the firstborn of God's children, older than his brother Jehovah. So, using that logic, what what was Chad and Lori accused of? What church were they trying to start? Do you know? Church of the Firstborn. So you take that logic right here, what I just said, that's inverted, and what the evidence is, all the dead bodies, I would say, all the carnage in their wake. There's your evidence. And then just follow that logic through, and you have the Church of the Firstborn. So according to this statement right here, or this group's belief system, they believe Lucifer was the firstborn. So is it the Church of Lucifer or what? And I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. It's a very slippery, it's very,
Right,
it's like
but you've
over
been
time.
yes, you've been connecting dots for years. So
Years.
you're
Yeah.
helping us to get from point A to point B to point C right now.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Okay, so I already said that. The torture is not a consequence of the loss of temper. I said this too, but the execution of well-planned, well-thought-out rituals often performed by close relatives. That's huge right there, because that's usually missing kids. It's usually the parents. That's where you look first, right? The only escape for the children is to dissociate. I think of JJ on the couch, the last photo that was taken of him whenever, I don't even know what day he really died on, or Tylee. I don't really know. We don't know. We can speculate. It's the 8th or 9th of September for Tylee, and it's the 22nd or 23rd for JJ. But they also talk about these gatherings. Okay, no, let me not go down the rabbit holes. Okay, not rabbit holes. It's just not right now. But when I think about, JJ was sitting there being good, it looked like to me. It's this last photo of him. He's wearing the red pajamas that they actually unearthed him from Chad Daybell's yard in. And he was either just real calm or sedated, maybe, or dissociated. I mean, he did have he was autistic. He had ADHD. He had everybody stripped away from him, including his big sister, his life support, his dog, his dad, his grandparents, his brother, everything, his school. They uprooted and moved and just planted there. And I'm sure Lori wasn't being very nice and lovable. When JJ's nanny from care.com was hired by Lori, she went and watched JJ one night while Alex and Lori went to go pick up Melanie Gibb from the airport. While she was gone, the nanny reported about how JJ was acting. He went to go play with his little neighbor friend in the apartment complex, and they kind of started arguing, and JJ was just lashing out, just like we saw on the body cam footage of JJ, a week before his murder, where he says, "Get the hell out of here." I mean, he was cussing, that's pretty profound. He's very unruly. Neighbors reported that he was just kind of like the Frankie children, just all kind of outside all day with no supervision. I mean, I can't imagine how scary this was for these kids, for Tylee and for JJ, both. And then she was just trying to be the bigger sister and be more courageous, And I mean, I just, it's so heart-wrenching. And I would say it would cause them to dissociate big time, to strip them of every comfort, every love, every familiarity, everything. And then be hanging out with some really weird people, I mean, it's interesting it's very sadistic. Let me continue. We'll probably never continue if I keep on reading. I'm just like, because I can go off and off and off. All right, let's see. The only escape for the
There's a running joke on my channel that when I do a video review, like when I did Melanie Gibbs' interview with East Idaho News, like an hour
Yeah.
turns into like 5 or 6 hours because I
Yeah.
got to stop and comment. I have to.
I
Anyway,
know, and I'm, like, right there with you because 'cause I'm doing it too, you know? It's I don't know. If not now, when, you know? It's like, I don't wanna do a bunch of little things. We're running out of time, kinda, for attention to be focused, for eyes to be, looking at this. Everybody knows the mainstream narrative. Nobody's considering this narrative, you know? Or at least both can be true, I mean, not all things. I'll never be able to prove all this, but it's just it answers so many questions for me personally.
and you do have some receipts. You do have receipts, girl.
I do. I have lots. I just can't find them. Not on demand. Okay, let's see. Ritualistic child abuse. I already said all that. They will develop. Okay. The only escape for the children is to dissociate. They will develop a new personality to enable them to endure various forms of abuse. When the episode is over, the core personality is again in control, and the individual is not conscious of what happened. Dissociation also serves the purpose of the occult. Okay. It serves them before it serves anybody else because the children have no day to day memory of the atrocities. They go through adolescence and early adulthood with no active memory of what is taking place. Oftentimes they continue in rituals through their teens and early 20s, unaware of their involvement. Many individuals with whom I have spoken have served missions, and it is not until later that they begin to remember. Sorry. One individual has memories of participating in rituals while serving as a full-time missionary.
What?
Mhm.
What?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of
Mind
exorcisms
blown.
that seem to
Mind
go on
blown.
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, because oh my god. Yeah. Everything's firing off right now in my head because 'cause I'm like, "Oh my god, yes, yes, I wanna tell y'all about this and that," but yeah, let's try and structure it. Thank you for keeping me in line, Joe. Right? I need it. Okay, let's see. Oftentimes they continue I already said that. Many individuals with whom I've spoken have served missions, and it is not until later that they begin to remember. I already said that. One individual has memories of participating in rituals while serving as a full-time missionary. The victims lead relatively normal lives, but the memories are locked up in a compartment in their minds and surface in various ways. They don't know how to cope with the emotions because they can't find the source. Think of Stacy Cope or Stacy Cox Cope. That's Lori Vallow and Alex Cox's oldest sister. Just, I don't want to stop and explain right now, but just for those who know, help those that don't know. Okay, as they become adults, see, I'm sorry, I'm not used to this thing. And move into another environment, something triggers the memories and consequently flashbacks and or nightmares occur. One day they will be living a normal life and the next they will be in a mental hospital in a fetal position. The memories of their early childhood are recalled in so much detail that they once again feel the pain that caused the dissociation in the first place. God, it's such a catch-22. There are two reasons why adults can remember with such detail events that happened in their past. First, the terror they experienced was so stark that it was indelibly placed in their mind. Second, the memory was compartmentalized in a certain portion of the mind and was not subjected to the dilution of experiences of ensuing years. When it is tapped, it is as fresh as if it happened yesterday. The memories seem to come in layers. For example, the first memory might be of incest. Then they remember robes and candles. Next, they realize that their father or mother or both were present when they were being abused. Oh, another layer will be the memory of seeing other people hurt and even killed. Then they remember having seen babies killed. Another layer is realizing that they participated in the sacrifices. 45, we heard earlier, right? Okay. One of the most painful memories may be that they even sacrificed their own baby. God. With each
What?
layer of oh, shit. I'm sorry.
No, sacrifice their own babies?
Oh, yeah. You gotta read the handling documents, man. Or not. I don't know. It's pick
Well,
your
no,
poison.
we'll get there, but oh my
Oh,
word.
it's I mean, it doesn't make sense right here. You're like, yeah, yeah, it blows your mind. I don't
I'm
wanna
not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying it is.
it's mind blowing though. You
Yes,
can't
exactly.
imagine that. You can't imagine that.
No.
But once you start getting into this hornet's nest, because that's what it is. It's a psychological hornet's nest. So there's that. But I feel like if you didn't kind of acclimate to this stuff, then I feel like it would cause you to dissociate and not think anymore. That cognitive dissonance. It's because it's too much for the brain to handle. It's like you can't fathom that. And so it's a process, and you just kind of have to sit with these things and weigh them out. And I mean, this is just whether or not we believe them or not. This is just this we haven't gotten past that. That's the really crazy part. We got Sean Diddy Combs playing out over there. We got those Alexander brothers down there in Florida. Tim Ballard, yeah. Anyways, if you know, you know. Um, this is going on all around us, and that's basically what is turned into trafficking or is labeled as trafficking. Let's just say that. Because here it's child prostitution and whatever power and status, and control. Over here, oh, and bloodlines. It's always about the bloodlines. And then over there, call it human trafficking and an enterprise, and you're okay. It's like what? It's the stigmatization of the labels that are harmful. In my opinion, I've watched and I've play this out. I balance these things all the time in my mind. Like I think about these things.
Yeah, and I
Like
should
how
probably
can I
throw a
prevent it?
I should probably throw a trigger warning out there for my channel because this is some difficult stuff to listen to. I mean, it's delving into like 3 or 4 different areas that are really difficult subject matter, and we're kind of all throwing them together in this. So just
Yeah,
trigger warning people, if you need to take a break, if you can't listen to it, that's fine. Take
we
a break.
understand for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. I always just center myself. Like I said, I don't know if I'm doing it the right way. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, this can't be healthy, because I've crammed and I've looked at this every day, not just this, but all of this. And it just I try to always bring it back to center, and center is the victims. It's Tylee, Charles, and Tammy, and JJ, and Joe, and then all the other ones. And then I'm like, they had to go through what they went through. I can't imagine actually the last moments of their lives. Are, I can't. That's the one thing I can't wrap my brain around.
No.
And
And
how
and
scary that was.
yeah. And when you shared with us that video of JJ singing on the bus last time,
Hmm.
I had to take a couple of days off from true crime because
Aw,
that really affected me emotionally. Like,
yeah, they're
had
human.
a hard time
It's like
processing it.
we memorialize them, I think, and that was another aspect of talking about them. Talking about them helps me. It helps me to process all the grief and all this stuff, and then I get to share them, and then everyone has been so awesome and loving and kind and supportive, and they're their kids too. That's their niece, that's their nephew, that's their uncle. We're family here. We're not getting out of this alive, okay? So we've got to do better. And I mean, we're not doing this alone. Unless you want to, but you don't have to. That's why we're here. And we can do this for them, for our future generations.
Yeah.
I think it's worth
Well
it.
said.
And it's generational. It's generational. And so with that, I want you to think about Lori, Alex, Chad, and Jody and Ruby and Tim Ballard, and at least this group of people that I deal with, okay? And just think about how it's generational. So likely this is how it usually works is, this happens and there's incest like we just read. There's pregnancies for the ancestral pregnancies. I don't know what to call that. There's all kinds of psychological hornet's nest. Okay. And so think about, I try to think that maybe once Lori was a victim of this and it caused this. This is what it causes, to her kids. She didn't know how to be a parent. She didn't know how to not treat her son like he was her best friend. It's the boundaries are enmeshed and very, there are no boundaries. And
bad
that's
bad parenting is a generational curse. Like it gets
it.
passed down.
I've
It does.
noticed so many things about myself. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know any, you don't know any different till you kind of look at either learn the hard way because something really crappy happened, and you didn't know any better. But kind of examining all these things and analyzing and just kind of reading all these different aspects that come along when a family member is murdered. Okay. There are so many things that come along with this, and this became my mission. It overtook me, and I just was like, okay, where are we going? And I mean, this is my work. And I mean, it's just it's really interesting because if you do self-reflect, which I hope everybody does, it gives you a chance to kind of fit all these things into your own life and see how that how these things apply, because we're none of us are like golden. Okay. We are all jacked up in one way or another, and not all jacked up. I mean, we have our good and our bad, positive, negative attributes and stuff, and characteristics and behaviors. And I don't know.
Amen. Amen. I have no, I definitely was not the perfect father and husband in any way, shape, or
I
form.
like that. I like that you can admit that. That's so much humility to me, Thank
But
you.
I also did not unalive my children or my
Right.
adopted children.
Right. Yeah. It ruins lives because they're in prison for the rest of their lives. They don't it's generational, and it's a big ripple effect, and it affects many generations beyond that. So, I mean, I don't know. I just want to do the work, and that way it's less that my kids and, grandkids and so on have to do, you know? Anyways, all right. Let's see here. Let's try and find my spot. Okay, when it's tapped, for example. Okay, you said that. Okay. Okay, right here. With each layer of memory comes another set of problems with which they must deal. Some have said that the witnesses to this type of treatment cannot be trusted because of the victim's unstable condition and because practically all of them have some kind of dissociative disorder. In fact, the stories are so bizarre as to raise serious credibility questions. I wish I had that pulled up of David Levitt saying that he held a press conference. David Levitt was the Utah prosecuting attorney in Utah County, and his brother Michael Levitt was the governor a couple times in Utah. And him and his wife, they were not publicly accused, but uh, like I said, David Levitt held a press conference and basically was like, "Me and my wife, we are not cannibals." Okay, we do not. There's no organized ring of ritual abuse, and that basically, I'm just what do you call that? Loosely, okay. Don't I'm not quoting verbatim, but he said something along the lines of, oh, hold on, I just went blank. About Oh my gosh. I just went blank because I explained myself so much. So,
He said
I
nothing to
might
see her move along.
basically he said that thank you. He said that the allegations were so outlandish that they basically dismissed them. And I'm just like, that's not how this works. Okay. A prosecuting attorney is saying this, and he's just, I don't know. It's crazy. And they depend on crazy, the label of crazy, the bizarre stories. And let me testify to this. Okay. I'm going to use some LDS speak right there. Let me testify to this. Well, with Lori and Chad, whenever your family, even my mother, was labeled a zombie. So when that term entered the picture, I was like, I mean, I would wake up some mornings and you know how you're just kind of coming to, and I remember thinking, like, not before I even opened my eyes, and I was like, zombies? Or zombies? Like I was just like trying to wrap my head around that. Like, "Oh, yeah, yep, this is real," "Yeah,
Well,
okay, with your day."
that's partly where cognitive dissonance comes in with the rest of the world, because we're all like, okay, the Mormon church doesn't have anything to do with zombies. That was just like Chad and Lori's like
Yeah,
crazy
that's
offshoot
not
cult.
us. Yeah, it's just another crazy offshoot cult. It's just another one. There are many, and, that's another thing that's just like, I'm not a cult expert, but it just why? You know? And again, I have a theory for that. But, yeah. So, I was gonna talk about David Levitt, but let me get back over there. Alright. It went away. Okay. Alright, here we go. It's about to really start making some sense. Okay. As soon as I find it. Okay. Right here. Oh my gosh, it's just, like, too much words, you know? Another layer. With each layer okay, I guess. Yeah, okay, about the victim not being trusted, um, and unstable unstable condition, and basically, because they're practically all of them have some kind of dissociative disorder, so they're therefore, you know, un not able to, report the abuse, so but I'm saying the crazier the story is, I really don't believe it. Like, whenever we get to trial and they're convicted and sentenced to death, to multiple life sentences, and you're sitting there like, okay, you know, but all the crazy still happening, and it's the same stuff that keeps coming up in these other cases that are present day, and they're saying, "Hey, I think we were married before in a past life." Tim Ballard, he coined it as a ruse, a couple's ruse, actually, and he used it allegedly to victimize women while he was allegedly trafficking children. When he's saying he's not he's saving them. It's very inverted. So it's such an odd statement to claim in the first place. Then, like Chad telling Lori they were married in a past life, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's horrible. Like, don't
Yeah.
fall for
What a
that one.
pickup line. What a pickup line.
Yeah. Hey,
That only
babe.
works in the Mormon
Yeah.
belt.
Right. Obviously, of course, I haven't seen anywhere else. I haven't looked anywhere else, and nothing's caught my attention from any other sect or anything or religion. And but
I
Tim
think Buddhists
Ballard
believe in
using it,
reincarnation.
it's not that they really believe in it. It's just a tactic. It really is. It's just
Right.
this
100%.
group,
100%.
in my
Yes.
opinion, yeah, it's their way of manipulation and justifying affairs or naughty behavior, and to exploit. The name of the game on the perpetrator side, in my opinion, is to exploit. They will exploit every aspect of one's life, okay? Death even, okay? They are going to exploit it. They're they are opportunist, okay? Just keep that in mind too. All right. And they depend on, like, I believe that they're psychopathic even. I don't know, I can't diagnose anybody, but it just really appears that way, and that's just my opinion. But so they wanna mock people with empathy, I'm sorry, and so because they don't know how to feel love, they don't know how to, um, act out these emotions and these feelings because they have to like fake, they have to act, they they mirror us, they watch us, and so they can mimic what we're doing, and then they prey on us because they depend on us having that compassion, you know? Oh, that they wouldn't do that, you know? And we just chalk it off because we can't imagine because, you know, we wouldn't do that, but it's happening. And so we have to figure what's going on right there, you know? There's something going on there. And anyways, let me hush. Okay. All right. The irony is that one of the objectives of the occult is to create multiple personalities within the children in order to keep the quote unquote secrets. They live in society without society having any idea that something is wrong, since the children and teenagers don't even realize there is another life occurring in darkness and in secret. That was a long sentence. However, when 60 witnesses testify to the same type of torture and murder, it becomes impossible for me personally not to believe them. Amen. Amen, brother. Right? I really like Elder Pace. I do. And I mean, he passed away a couple years ago, but I mean, I don't know. It's nice to see a leader taking some sort of
Responsibility, accountability.
yeah, like, just trying to figure it out, trying to
Yeah.
track it down and, you know, it sounds like he's feeling for them, you know, like and, like, how can you have logically, like, how can you have 60 people that aren't from the same family or the same place, and they're all saying the same things, just like I think with Chad and Lori and all the details, when you start putting them into context with the victim's stories or the victim statements, um I can't look away either. You know, I'm like, no, there's something here. You know, again, it's never going to be proven in a court of law. So you just have to trust your gut with with the evidence. You know, you're going to use all those techniques. I don't know all the words, okay, but I just know that I was born with my senses, you know, I have hearing, sight, feeling, um, all those things, and then I have my brain, right? That's a whole nother thing. And then
Logic and reason, and he's using
yes,
logic and reason here.
yes, and I
Yes.
mean, I listen to a lot of the words that they use. I don't know, it's just the way my brain hangs on to things, and once I hear it twice, it's like, "Okay, I might wanna tuck that away." Um, I can't put sentences together, but I can recall things like that, like it's nobody's business, and you know, there's just certain things that catch me. So when I hear another one of these co-conspirators or alleged co-conspirators or whatever talking about something and just they'll say something even today, like, oh, here's something again that I've heard 1,000 times before. But this time my brain processed that, or it's something I've learned since then. You know, it's just it's interesting and it's always
Yeah,
moving.
we're gonna hear some things on Friday on Dateline.
Oh yeah. I mean, nothing that I've heard before. So, I don't know. I know how she has character assassinated Joe Ryan. She was doing that already with Charles, you know? I mean, she dehumanized him so much, and again, she's doing it to Tylee right now, dehumanizing, victimizing her own daughter. So, I mean, this is
She did that with JJ too, according to Melanie.
yeah, the drug baby, niece's drug baby
Yeah.
thing, and
Yep.
mhm. And then Melanie's like, "That's her boy," and I'm like, "That's not her boy. Obviously, it's not her boy, okay?" That's you know, I don't know, these people are so I think they need help. I don't think they are a lost cause if they can be shown that, you know, "Hey, I don't know how you teach people that they're inverted," you know, I don't really have the answers for that, haven't gotten there yet, but I
Well, I
don't
think
think
dehumanizing is the right word because that's what zombie does.
Mhm.
Zombie dehumanizes the people that you
Yep.
want out of your life and gives you the rationalization to do horrible things to them to get them out of your life. Like dehumanizing is the key word, I think, in this entire thing.
Wow. Yeah. Now that you say that, you think about what happens whenever, uh Mormons go to the temple? What are they given? A new name?
Right.
I mean, that's a form of dehumanizing because you're no longer Lori and
Who you were
Chad, you're James
before.
and
Yep.
Elena. You're James and
Yep.
Elena now, and you're hear me roar, and so and all the victims were given new names. They were given Rhonda. My mom was Rhonda. Charles was Eblos, Ned Schneider,
Ned. Oh my gosh,
and
Ned.
Garrett. Yeah. And even the 7 gatherers, they all had different names. Miriam, uh, Lori was Joseph Smith's mother or grandmother. All kinds of, I mean, just all the names. Chad was Raphael. He was even the Holy Ghost. Okay. But I'm telling you, I've got this figured out. I figured it out. I was reading Mike Stroud's podcast earlier and I was like, oh my God, I got it now. So see, I like filled my brain with something else and that's why
And
I'm
even
not with
Jason
it.
Mao was Moroni, right?
I don't know. It came out on Fox. No, not yeah, Fox 10 Phoenix. Justin Lum had come out with those documents, and it was the past life email that Chad sent Lori. I don't know if you want to Google that, maybe, or look that up. But it'll be Fox 10 News, Justin Lum, and it'll be past life documents, and it's an email.
I saw
And it's
Justin at the hearings in December. I reckon he'll be at the
he's
one
so
next
nice.
week.
He really
He
is.
is. He
He's
is.
down to earth. He really
Yep.
he really is. Um, and just very polite, and I'm glad he's not a member of the church. I'm relieved, you know? I'm just saying, I'm being honest. Like I can lie to you, but
I know who you're thinking about
say
when
the
you say
truth.
that too. I know who you're thinking
Well,
about when you say that.
I mean, but other stations and reporters have reported on
Yep.
this and nothing like that one. I'm just
Yep.
like, and it's the biggest one, and I mean, uh, you know, is he ever going to wake up one day and go and maybe leave the church and just be like, "Oh my God, what I do?" Like how do you write all that, or how do you take your bias out of it, or so
For LDS, it's almost impossible. It
I
really
think
is because
so,
it's so
and then we have
ingrained.
to, and then a never Mormon like myself, we have to just buy it at word because we don't know any different. And that's where I was like, no, because they're saying there's no Church of the Firstborn. There's people in these Facebook groups that are saying that we don't teach the Church of the Firstborn or the 144,000. I'm like, wait, what? Like it blew my mind because I didn't know anything about anything. And I was like, but it's in the Bible, and you have a Bible, right? And so, anyways, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you not? And so it was very confusing. And I mean, maybe for them too, maybe for the members that aren't aware of that. I have no idea. But it's confusing. And it's used, I believe scriptures are used and they use them to manipulate. Okay. So that's just me. That's my honest
Oh,
opinion.
no more remote viewing has a question for you. Is Glen Pace LDS or was he a private investigation for the LDS?
He was serving a leadership calling for the I don't know much about the 70s, but he was a bishop or an apostle, it said, a general authority. He was not a private investigator. He was um high up in the leadership, and he was tasked with this investigation. Like I said, he was, I think, an accountant. Okay. And I mean, he did a really good job, a really thorough job. And I mean, what did we hear? That was like the third or second report he had done, or the third report that was turned in. One was on Satanism. One he had turned in May in '89, I want to say. And so, what have we not seen? Like, this was not made for the public. It was leaked to the public. It said, "Do not reproduce" on the top, written in bold letters, or capital letters. And
Which is the
I'm
first time that
glad.
Mormons are told not to reproduce.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Hey Jay, there's my fiance right there. Yeah. Well, I mean, but no, he wasn't a private investigator. And actually, now, and I haven't corroborated this, so don't quote me on this. I'm just saying what I have heard in the Mormon streets. That after Glen Pace turned this document in or this report in, I want to say rumor is that he was sent overseas to serve a mission, to serve on a mission, you know. So he was out of sight, out of mind. I mean, maybe, allegedly. I don't know. Look it up. Do your own research, y'all. It's so empowering too. Okay. Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to fix this. Okay, so it says, I mentioned multiple personalities because the spiritual healing, which must take place in the lives of these victims, cannot happen without their priesthood leaders understanding something about it, right? God, how can you help anybody if you have no idea what they're even talking about, you know? That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. Everything is wait, whoa, whoa. In a Joe, I really suck at this.
You're doing good.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want me to read? I can read for a
Oh, no,
while.
that's this part. Yeah, yeah, you go right here. I can make
From
it
the
larger.
spiritual indoctrination?
Correct. Go for it.
Okay. The spiritual indoctrination, which takes place during the physical abuse, is one of the most difficult to overcome. In addition to experiencing stark terror and pain, the children are also instructed in satanic doctrine.
Yeah.
Everything is completely reversed. White is black, black is white, good is bad, bad is good.
Mhm.
Satan is going to rule during the millennium. That's like a merch quote right there. White is black, black is white, good is bad, bad is
Yeah,
good.
Ruby
That's like,
Frankie said, "I didn't know right from wrong,
mm-hmm.
whatever from abused." I don't know. I don't have it written down, but yeah, that's what this is. It's like stepping into Alice in Wonderland, and I'm like, "Whoa, everything is just upside down." There's a lot of projection, there's a lot of deflection, there's a lot of denial, there's a lot of perfection. You know, there's this it's like a wound up everybody's just about to burst, you know, like
Well,
everybody's
what
so
they're
wound
doing
up.
is what they're doing is they're getting children to ignore the right
Oh,
versus wrong, internal right versus wrong that we all have. And it's
they
funny
never
because
learned
Mormons
it.
actually teach that. Mormons actually teach by the time you're 8 years old, you
You
know
know,
enough
choose the
about
right.
right and wrong to get baptized. So,
CTR.
yes.
Choose the right. And on that note, think about how I try to think back of whenever I was a little kid, you know, and what my mom and dad said was word. I didn't know what God meant. I didn't know, you know what I mean? Like in the grand scope of things. Like my world consisted of my parents. They were the know all be all. Okay. And I didn't have that much insight, or I don't know. I was a kid. But so what if you're taught, you know, to manipulate and to lie and cheat and steal and look at corn? Um, you know, what if you're taught that? How do you know what's right and what's wrong? You know, like to even begin with. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
And
I don't
I've
know.
always thought of it in this terms. What if you're taught as a child that a dog meows and a cat
Yeah,
barks
there you
and a
go.
cow cock-a-doodle doos?
We are
I
told, and
mean,
that's our foundation, right? And so I was always like, okay, but mama said, mama said, you know, like,
yeah.
it's a lot of unlearning you have to do just on your own. Like, you're like, whoa, I was really
Yeah.
indoctrinated as a kid because you're just told that's, yeah, that's your dad, that's your mom, you know,
And to a certain
you're just,
extent in the LDS church, the doctrine that you learn as you go along is
mhm.
quote unquote evolved doctrine. And I'm using that term. They don't use that term, but it's line upon line, precept upon precept. They do
Oh, yeah,
use
that
that
one.
term. So my mom actually took elevated Mormon doctrine classes as an
Cool.
adult when I was a
Yeah.
college student. And she said her professor who was in the leadership, in the stake leadership at the time, but he was also a professor at Purdue. She pulled him aside one day after class and she's like, I just don't know that this makes sense to me. And he literally said to her, well, sometimes you just have to believe it on faith. You just
Oh,
have to
wow.
accept it on faith, and you have to suspend your disbelief.
Oh, uh, yeah, I remember similar to that. I mean, I was raised Catholic, but I got to Adam and Eve, and I'm just like, so did they had kids, and then what the kids do? Did they have sex with their mom, or how did this work? And it was just like, okay, just some things that were just unanswered for me a lot. Um, but it's also not my life. You know what I'm saying? Like it was different for me than it is from what I've viewed from outside looking into Mormonism. The
Right.
church is in the center of everything. It's
Yes,
and
it
I'm
is.
not trying to offend anybody here. I don't know a better way to say it. Observation is that I felt like, and sometimes do still feel like, people of that religion, they worship a building, a church. You can build one, it's something you can replace. It's
I don't know any other religion that testifies, that gives a testimony that I believe the church is true. Catholics will say, I
right.
believe the Pope is
Mm,
divine. I believe the Pope
he's
is whatever
great.
the Pope is. I believe the leaders of our church are ordained to be the
It's
leaders of our
not.
church, but I don't know any other religion that testifies, I believe the
Yeah,
church is true. That's
that's
like a
true.
fundamental
Literally.
testimony. Getting back
That
to the memo, children are put in a
yeah.
situation where they believe they're going to die, such as being buried
Oops,
alive or
sorry.
being placed in,
Listen to
where
this.
did I,
I'm sorry, it's under
such
the
as,
yellow.
no, you're fine. Children are put in a situation where they believe they are going to die, such as being buried alive or being placed in a plastic bag and immersed in water. Prior to
Cult.
doing so, the abuser tells the
Cult.
child to pray to Jesus to see if he will save her.
Now, think about this, because JJ was found in a shallow grave
Mm-hmm.
with a black trash bag, all the way around him, um, over a white trash bag, a kitchen trash bag that was waffled, over his head. And okay, I didn't think about this aspect of it until R. Frankie. And when you read Ruby's journals, she documents her own damn abuse, moron. Just saying, not very smart. Um, but she documents basically like waterboarding R, toilet, dunking his head in the toilet in a plastic bag. Yeah, I mean, and I'd read about this kind of abuse, this kind of torture with children and other, outside of Mormonism cases. And I'm just like, "Oh my god." And so JJ was found with the bag on his head. I'm thinking about all the things, and again, it's hard for me to kinda track around these areas because it gets really difficult. It's like,
It does. This is
because 'cause I'm
difficult to
so
read.
close, it's
Yeah.
and I know how you're
Imagine as
feeling, and I
it
don't
says,
know their last moments. I don't know what Tylee and JJ went through, and I just want, um I want their stories to be told. I think that's the only way I can deliver justice from myself, from where I am in these dynamics, in the family. And um I just think that's the only thing that'll do justice to um their to honor them now and to make it count. Lori Vallow slammed her hand on the counter and always said, "Doesn't count for me. I'm making it count. We are making it count." You know, I want I don't know. I can't make them come back. I can't breathe life back into them, but I can do better.
you kind of are, and you kind of did in part one, and we can continue to work on that. Like, honestly, they're JJ is more than just a name to me. Tylee is more than just a name now
Yeah.
because of us working together. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
And I know other people do too.
Thank y'all. It's awesome. All right, let's continue.
Imagine a 7-year-old girl having been told she is going to die, praying to Jesus to save her, and nothing happens. Then at the last moment, she's rescued, but the person saving her is a representative of Satan. He uses this experience to convince her that the only person who really cares about her is Satan. She is a Satan's child, and she might as well become loyal to him. Just before
Stop.
or shortly
Hold on.
after their baptism into the church, children are baptized by blood into the satanic order, which is meant to cancel out their baptism into the church. Wow.
Yeah. But I mean,
They will.
it's that Lori made a statement in her testimony at Melanie Gibbs' house. It's on audio out there. She says that Satan has been after her whole life. And I believe that is a very true statement of Lori Vallow, Lori Cox, Lori Daybell. That I do. I really do. I believe that she's also, her and her brother also endured this kind of abuse. Chad Daybell too. I mean, Jody Hildebrandt for sure, in my opinion. And there's so many like similar stories that, again, it's like you can't turn away from it because there's something here. It's not coincidence theories, these they're not conspiracy theories, it's not a bunch of coincidences. That's not logical. That's not it's not reasonable. So I don't know. It's a lot of computing. Yeah. I have to do more mental gymnastics to go with the mainstream narrative than I do with this. I'm like, oh, okay, makes sense. The end of the story is the kids were dead. They're dead, so it's not going to end well, is what I'm saying. Like, the story is not going to get brighter. Okay. It's going to be pretty dark, probably equally, if not a little more. So, I mean, that to me makes sense, but all right. I quit. I stopped for a minute.
Right. So we'll keep reading the memo. Cancel out the baptism into the church. They will be asked if they understand or have ever felt the Holy Ghost. And this is a key Mormon dog whistle term, the burning in your bosom. Supposedly, when you feel a burning in your bosom, that's the Holy Ghost testifying to you that whatever you're hearing is true. So when they reply they have, they'll be reminded of the horrible things they have participated in and will be told they have become a son or daughter of perdition, another Mormon dog whistle term, and therefore have no chance of being saved or loved by our Father in heaven or Jesus. All of this indoctrination takes place with whichever personality has emerged to endure the physical of what I call a civil war.
Physical, mental, and spiritual pain, I think. But
Did I miss that?
I can't raise it up anymore.
Okay. All of this indoctrination takes place with whichever personality has emerged to endure the physical, mental, and spiritual pain. Consequently, there develops within each of these individuals, these horribly abused individuals, most of them or several of them children, the makings of what I call a civil war. As the memories begin to surface, there are personalities who feel they have given themselves to Satan and there is no hope for forgiveness. So we're talking about split personalities here in 1990.
Multiple. Oh yeah,
wow.
This was called multiple personality disorder. If y'all remember Sybil, okay, but now they call it dissociative identity disorder, or DID, and it's because of every time you fracture one's brain. We have dementia and things like that, like trauma that I endured or whatever, just from these murders. That does damage to your brain. It's brain damage, and so it causes it to split into different parts each time that you experience these things. And this is just my little understanding, okay? But I mean, and so with each time the brain splits, it forms another personality. Well, like David Hamblin being a psychologist, he would call up certain parts. He would, let's say, he would say Tabitha or do whatever. Hypnosis is a big thing in this. So he would hypnotize his daughters allegedly and say Tabitha, and Tabitha knew that part of her brain, that part in her brain would come out, that personality, that persona, and she knew, or Tabitha knew, that it was time to perform sex acts on other members of the group. It's like perform. So, okay, so when you're not using that, you know, that personality goes back into its compartment and is not called out until something triggers it, or, you know, he uses a, I don't know the terms.
It's almost hypnotic in nature.
It is. That's what is going on. One of the alleged victims, Brett Bluth, who has spoken out on Fox 13 News reports and other places, you know, survivors, they do, like, I think they did a vigil, you know, recently. But he has spoken out because he alleges that whenever he was recommended by the church to go, like his bishop, it's alleged that the bishop that recommended him, the Brett Bluth, to David Hamblin, okay, is a CS member. A CS member, I'm saying for short, because that's an alleged LDS Church of Satan. So CS for short, member also. So it's like you have Jody Hildebrandt, possibly, it sounds like, from her niece, Jessie, where we found out that Jody was being recommended, not clients, but yes, they would become her clients, but they were recommended by the church. The church would actually pay for them for these visits to Jody, and they would go in there and she would diagnose them as being sex addicts, okay, which that's not in the DSM, okay? So you can't properly bill an insurance company for that, because it doesn't exist. You can't treat somebody for sexual addiction if it's non-existent. So it's like a little scam here, allegedly, looks like. And it's very wolf in sheep clothing. You know, if the church is trusting these therapists to recommend its members to, then the member goes, then the member is abused by the therapist because they're trying to convert them and make them not gay or not, you know, have a sexual addiction. Look at Kevin Franke. Look at Adam Steed. Look at Jesse Hildebrandt. Look at the victims, okay? The alleged victims, you know what I'm saying? That's your evidence, you know? It's like, by ye fruits, ye shall know. And I don't have a bunch of allegations or any allegations against me for doing any kind of hideous, you know, perpetration on anybody, much less a child. So it's like, you know, do we do this for everybody? We assume that people are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But, you know, it's just like, it's a catch-22. We're working with like a broken system all over the place. And it's like, we're all like holding our finger, you know, because the pipe has so many freaking water, you know, water's just spouting out everywhere. And we're all just holding a finger on it, like trying to stop the water from coming out, you know, and just plugging the hole for a second. But it's
Well, the disturbing part is what we're going to read next in the memo.
okay.
The
Yeah.
core person, and the reason we can't plug all the holes, the core person is an active member of the church, often with a temple recommend. So for those of you who don't know what a temple recommend is, you have to meet with either your bishop or your stake president. I don't remember who it was. That was like years ago for me. That was like 20 years ago for me, 30 years ago. But you have to swear to them that you are abiding by the principles of the church. Like you're obeying the word of wisdom. You're not breaking any of the 10 commandments. like you're being faithful in your duties as a church member. You're like fulfilling your calling, whether that's as a Sunday school teacher or the organist or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's how you
Yeah.
get a temple recommend. So Lori had one, and Chad had one. Jason Mao had one.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking it up right now.
How many times was Lori going to the temple back then?
Every day, sometimes multiple times per day.
That is
All right.
highly unusual.
Look,
That is highly unusual.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna show this real quick because I got it pulled up. Ready?
Yep.
This is Lori in her audio.
Oh. I have had lots of angelic ministry with people who wake me up 4 o'clock in the morning and tell me things to do. I no longer need to sleep very much because I'm woken up constantly by angels and giving me instructions on things that I can do to help further the Father's work. I don't know if you want me to tell the story or you don't want me to tell the story, but I feel like you do want to. Your story's pretty meaty. Yeah. Are you awake now?
She's awake now.
It's been a long journey. There was a point in my life. There's a changing point in your life, right? You're a member of the church your whole life. I always loved the Lord. There's a turning point in my life that turned me to the temple. And this is what I teach everybody. And my change of heart was to the temple. So I had been married to someone who was very awful, who raped my children. And I had divorced him and gotten away from him. And he had joined the church. He spoke in state conference. Everyone thought he was wonderful. He was very good showman of all those things. And after we were divorced, he told everybody that I was this lying, crazy Mormon and got up in court and said all these horrible things about me and turned it around to where the judges believed him instead of me. And he was constantly trying to get custody of my 3-year-old daughter and just to rub it in my face. And I went through a lot of years of this kind of hard stuff. And I was going to murder him. I was going to kill him, like the scriptures say, like Nephi killed him, just to stop the pain and to stop him coming after me and to stop him coming after my children. And I just felt I couldn't take it anymore. And I would go through the scriptures and find all the things like, if he comes against you once, if he comes against you twice, if he comes against you 3 times, then you can kill him. It says it in the scriptures in the book of Mormon. I'm like, there it is. There's my answer. I don't want to do anything that's wrong. I did not have a murderous heart. I just wanted to stop the bleeding and stop the pain. And so someone wise was speaking to me and said,
code word,
you need to go to the temple. So I went and met my bishop and I was like, I'm either going to turn my life to the temple or I'm going to commit murder. So do you want to give me a temple recommend?
Whoa.
And I was perfectly honest because at that point I had nothing to lose. You get to the bottom right, nothing to lose. And he gave me my temple recommend.
And bada bing, bada boom. Just like that, you know?
There's the temple recommend. There's the temple recommend reference.
Oh yeah, she said, and that's where I had my change of heart. And that's another dog whistle. It's mighty change of heart. I think I need to schedule a live stream for tomorrow because I found in that Stroud talk earlier, I was like, this is what it is. This is what's going on. This is the language they're using to do what they're doing. This is how they're manipulating it and what it means. You know, I always felt like it was some sort of instruction, right? She got her mission. Chad got his mission. And it was to rid the world of zombies. And so one has to ask themselves, well, I always assumed that this was Lori's mission that she thought up on her own. Okay. Or Chad, they gave each other a mission. Okay. Well, it's very, very, very complex, man. It is so complex and so depraved that
that's the thing that strikes me about this that's different than the other cases that are foremost in most people's minds right now, like the Delphi case, Brian Koberger case, the Idaho 4? Is there rabbit holes that you go down in those and you're like, we don't really know what happened. We don't
We really don't.
know. So in Idaho 4, we haven't seen the evidence presented yet, so we can't come to a conclusion, although a lot of people have already. And in
Yeah,
Delphi, they did
I'm
present all
not.
the evidence, but it wasn't televised. So a lot of people still have different opinions on whether or not Richard Allen was
Right.
actually guilty in that. So,
Yeah.
but in this, I don't consider these rabbit holes. I'm trying to come up. They're almost like black holes. They like suck you in, and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
It's
it's
a portal. It's
ridiculous.
a portal. It's a portal. Yeah. We're unprotected in the portal is what it is, you know. It's crazy. Another thing that is significant in this, or just I know we won't get to it tonight, is that in the LDS Church of Satan, it's alleged that there are different roles. There's the pater familias, which is, I would say, actually, I did this to AI. Maybe at the end I can pull that up. And it what I did was uh, I fed my AI all the data from the Hamblin case. And then I was like, okay, out of all these people, Chad, Lori, Tim Ballard, Ken Krogh, um, Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Zalima Pass, all the people, I entered all their names in there. And I was like, who would fit what role best? Okay. Like just to try and like, see if it would flow into the system. And it's fascinating. I was like, I mean, it's just food for thought. It's just, to kind of structure it in your brain, so you can kind of see how the hierarchy, how this transpires and how crap rolls downhill basically. Who's barking the orders, who is favoring this kind of, behavior, because it's not just here. It's not just in
No.
Mormonism. It's everywhere. And we're it's like I would have learned anything about LDS if it weren't for Lori. Okay, so this was my introduction to the Book of Mormon and to the Mormon culture. Again, beautiful people, but I for sure have a different opinion than what has been strewn through the mainstream media, the mainstream narrative. And I mean, we're not going to get that from the court. We're not going to get that from the trial and hearing a case out completely. So I mean, even if Delphi had been televised, it would be more transparency, more eyes and ears for sure. Maybe more solid people leaning one way and solid leaning the other. I mean, just it would be more clear. But this case was televised. Lori's trial wasn't. It was audio, but you get the gist. I mean, it's and it's still not at all like what I believe is going on. It didn't solve anything. It didn't answer my questions. I have just basic questions like, where's the crime scene for Diley? Who all was there? Where's everybody else's pings, and geolocations? And where's the rest of the handcuffs? Where's the rest of the sentences? You don't have to charge them for murder, but you can charge them for obstruction of justice, because they all, in my opinion, did that. These kids
Right.
didn't have a leg to stand on.
And that goes back to my original theory back in the beginning of this live tonight, that the prevalence of the LDS Church in Utah and Idaho and Arizona, like how much did those cops like back off
Exactly.
because this
Are
had
they
to do with the
Freemasons?
church?
Is it a brotherhood thing? Is it not just the church ties, but is it an oath that they swore and they put before everybody else? Why was Chad Daybell walked through a different door with his attorney when Lori was extradited and showed up to her first hearing in Idaho, when she snubbed her nose up at everybody? My parents were there. Colby was there, and she would act like she was dancing on marshmallows. not a care in the world. Her 2 kids were in the ground in her husband's backyard, and she's walking in like she's exalted.
and
Like,
not just
how
like
she
and not
walked
just
in.
like regularly buried there. Like, where is the rest of Tylee?
Yeah, where's the rest of Tylee? And I mean, there's some interesting connections that not just I'm not taking credit for all this, okay? Because this is a lot of other people's hard work. And so I've just been kind of looking everywhere. I filter through things, and I'm just like, I take what I need and I leave the rest. It's like Bluebell, okay? But except we eat that. But like, I don't ever force anything. I mean, I can't prove it, all I can do is lay it out and you decide for yourself, which is how this should work anyways. And it's okay if you have a differing view than I do. It's okay. And it's okay. We also have to think that more than one thing can be true. Just to not, I mean, the whole point is to get to the root of the problem. Another point is to know the root of the problem so that you can point out the right thing or things and warn people about that, because I mean, like right now, everybody's like, okay, well, Chad and Lori are in prison, and so we're good. We're safe. The streets are safe.
Yeah, I
No,
think
they're
I
no.
think the Mormon Church, the LDS Church, has a 12-step program problem because they
You know
won't,
who came up
number
with
one,
that?
admit that they have a problem.
You know who came up with that? Or
No,
was
I just did. I just
on
did
the
just now.
board? No, the 12-step program, Jody Hildebrandt had to do with that too.
Oh,
Developing it.
yeah, right.
Yeah, that's nuts though. It's like, come on, man.
I'm just saying the LDS Church has to admit they have a problem before they can solve it.
It's like I compare it or I liken it to maybe having like a narcissistic parent. As I look at the church like it's narcissistic and it's not gonna admit its fallacies. It's not gonna admit that it's um, all the things. It's not going to admit its wealth because it don't want its members telling it what to do with it. It
Nope.
doesn't want. I don't think it's
they're gonna
about
do damage
membership.
control. They're
Yeah,
just gonna do damage control.
that's it. And they are making billions and billions more dollars, just on interest. Okay, and purchasing land packages and all the things. Going and hanging out with the Pope once a year at least. What's really going on is all I'm saying. It's just like, because I tend to see the bigger picture on accident. It's not even on purpose. Okay. And I'm just like, well, this is going on over here. And that's, it's kind of interesting. Like when P. Diddy was arrested and all that and charged or whatever, with trafficking and all that crazy stuff over there. I was already following and researching into Tim Ballard and that whole operation. And I'm like, oh, good. Oh, good. Yes, they're cracking down on it. All right. Maybe this guy will finally be held accountable, like, because this is part of this story too. We'll get to that one day. But it's it's like watching all these different pieces of like the only thing I can say is that it's similar to is my parents owned a transportation company and I used to do dispatch. And so you kind of have to figure out the routes for your drivers, like who's going to take this leg of the drive because you can only drive so many hours per day safely, and being in whatever with the, I forget words y'all all the time to be in coordinates, coordination. Anyways, to be in line with the DOTD. Okay. And then, so this leg would be this person, this leg would be this driver, and then this leg of the run would be the last driver. And so that's kind of what I feel like is happening here. I feel like Lori and Chad were exposed, and that's this leg. And then the other leg, it's the same run though. It's the same game. It's the same case. It's the same movement or conspiracy or like-minded people, a group of like-minded people that aren't getting called out all at one time. And so people aren't connecting them besides saying, oh my God, there's so many people that have uh, basically drawn the correlations between Lori Vallow and Ruby Frankie. Like, you can't watch anything on Ruby Frankie without seeing or hearing Lori Vallow. Just like with Spring Thibodeau, that happened in Arizona, and Lori Vallow was used in the court documents, as a reason for why his son might have been in trouble. If she's now case, what do you call it? Reference. Or yeah, I can't put a thought together right now. I'm like, blah.
We've been going for
But
2 hours. I can understand.
that's about when it happens.
Right.
It is. I'm mush.
Let me get to the end of this page on this memo.
There you go. No, where are we at?
The core person is an active member of the church, often with the temple recommend. As integration takes place, the civil war begins. Sometimes in an interview, personalities of the dark side have come out. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine being him?
Wait, I don't
And
even.
those,
Oh,
I'm down at
wow.
the end. We're like in the last
Okay.
3-4 lines.
I'm like, I can't find you. Gotcha.
Sometimes in an interview, personalities of the dark side have come out. And this guy, so here's the thing about
Yeah.
Mormon leadership, like in them counseling people and interviewing people and doing marriage counseling, they have no
Absolutely.
training in that.
None.
99% of them have no training in that.
And
So what's,
I mean, I feel bad for them. That's got to be another load that they don't get paid for. I mean, I've watched all the shows, and I just don't know how to explain it. But that is just, I mean, I understand the sentiment. However, when it gets you privilege, because you're not going to disclose that one of your members that you're counseling, that you're not even certified or to counsel, but then yet you can't testify and say that they told you or they confessed to you that you diddled your children or whatever. So it's like it's really weird. It's very one-sided, and it's not right. Like, make it right, make it make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense.
and this
I
is one of the
understand
few guys,
volunteering, but
this Glen Pace Memo, and I'm with you. I like this guy, is
me
one
too.
of the few that does try to make sense out of it, that does try to
Yeah.
make it make sense.
And I
But
just
there are
feel like
there are so many, they want to sweep it under the rug. They want to like
that's
just do
it.
damage
The
control.
Mormon way, man. I look at Janice, I look at Barry when I think of this sweeping under the rug. Nothing to see here. Nothing is wrong. Everything's fine. It didn't come from us. We're perfect. We're looking down on all of you. Well, at least that family for sure. Barry thinks he's in the upper 5%, and the rest of us are below. So, I mean, just in her home hierarchy, her and Alex's hierarchy of their own home, there's that structure. That's how they're raising their kids. And then they're also, indoctrinated and, with the culture and the church, of the church, and I mean, it's just like, I feel like empathy in this aspect for them because they never stood a chance. They never stood a chance.
Mm.
And how frustrating, how that's such a waste,
They were
when
they
if
were
they
with
weren't
they were
raised
with
like,
they were with Kay and Larry. Like they could have had a good life with Kay and Larry,
yeah,
right?
with whomever, with Chad, whatever, just do it the right way. There's a right way, and then there's like, whoa. Hello girl, that's wild and out big time. That's just like off the deep end. And just with all the pressures, with all of this, and then there's this inversion of this other group that exists within the church. It's a church within the church, and they are holding callings. Chad was an executive ward clerk, or I'm sorry, he was a ward clerk, an executive secretary. He was serving a calling. He had access to the church meeting house. And we're going to read about that, when we continue this. But
He also had access to a cemetery, right?
access to a cemetery. I just really think maybe, possibly, that is they were living inverted lives. You know,
White
and
is
it's a
black and
slippery
black is white.
slope. Yes. And, you know, she thinks that she did everything that the Lord told her to do. The question is, who's her Lord? Does she know? Because we're just buying it as that's the same Lord that we worship. And that's not what's going on here. And that's a very, very whoa. You know, it's taken me a lot to adapt to their way of thinking. And I mean, I'm not thinking it. I don't follow it. I don't endorse it. I just want to know and see it through their lens as best as I can. And just try and make sense of the nonsensical, like my uncle said.
And that's kind of
You know?
what he's doing here in this memo. He says, sometimes in an interview, personalities of the dark side have come out. They are
Yeah.
petrified or perhaps full of hate for me and what I represent. So that's the
Yeah.
church. Eventually, those
Yeah.
personalities need to be dealt with spiritually and psychologically. Most victims are suicidal. They have been brainwashed with drugs, hypnosis. Who said that earlier? I did. And other means to become suicidal.
Yeah. I mean, it's you can't in my opinion, you can't deny this. If everybody were to have a prerequisite of reading this and then learning about the Lori Daybell and Ruby Frankie and Jody Hildebrandt and all the people, their cases, you would be like, it's you know, but I didn't know this existed. You know, I knew about devil worshippers or whatever, you know, but I don't remember the satanic panic. I mean, the fact that it's labeled that is interesting, and it comes from the 3-letter government agencies. I mean, that's what I've learned. I don't know. I could be very ignorant in that, but it just seems like let's put a negative spin on it, you know, and it makes people go and they will go no further. Okay. They automatically throw their wall up and they say, oh, and then now I think they chalk it off to QAnon or whatever. I don't even understand all that. And I'm just like, what? You know, like, but I'm over here. I'm like, this is my family. So that's my end game. Okay. My end game is just trying to figure out what happened to them and why. It answers my questions. Why? Whereas again, when you're just dealing with the mainstream narrative, what's been put out there by news media, if you know a case, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy because this case is so widely known. Not everybody gets to experience that. You know, there's some missing people who don't get this kind of what do you call it, traction, and so their pictures are never noticed or seen because they're not blonde hair and blue eyes or white kids, or you know, it's so crazy. It really is. There's so many things to talk about in this, just just the entire aspect of all the aspects of this case, you know? And then if you just apply that to every case that's out there, just all the things that one thinks about, you know, as a family member, just like it blows your mind. It really
If
does.
this happened to one of my children, it would be my worst nightmare ever.
Uh,
So I just
it's
I can't imagine adopting it or
yeah.
allowing it just just you know as something that's normal or shouldn't be
Yeah, silence.
shouldn't, because if
Yeah,
it happened to one of my kids, I would probably be going to jail for murder to whoever did it to one of my
right.
kids. I
I
mean,
know.
I did but to accept it as normal is
See,
just bizarre to
you
me
can't. And
and
it's so
systemically.
yeah, and a lot of people like, and I mean, I get it because you're not, you know, it's not your family, so I understand. But like everybody that is still with me through all this time, I mean, I'm just like, y'all are some freaking troopers or like glutton for punishment or both, you
Are,
know? I don't
are
know.
you sure you should be going to the trial? Are you sure you're not going to jump across that
I don't know.
rail?
I imagine it, but I have my mom raised me my entire life to just, you know, just be the bigger person, to turn the other cheek. Because I mean, really, what would that satisfy? You know, that would
Nothing.
satisfy me right there in the moment. And
Right.
then then I'd be right
And
there
then
with her. So
instant regret, right? Then you have instant
exactly.
regret. Yeah.
So I know I have a lot of restraint like that too. I just talk a lot of caca. I do. I do. I'm like, hey girl, just let me talk. Let me just talk at her just a little bit. Oh my God, she would just fling her nose up at me. I know it. I just knows it. Anyways, but I don't know. I do think I do want to be there. I want her to feel my presence just like I made my presence known in her first trial. However many trials she wants to go through, I'll be there. And I hope she sees her victims in my eyes. I do. Again, I hope she sees them again and is scared. Yeah. We had a weird stare exchange. And that was the day that she ended up wanting to be dismissed for the rest of the day. They were showing autopsy pictures of the kids. And I forgot that we had that stare exchange right before that. I left right after that. Then me and mom had to run back up to the courthouse because Lori didn't want to be there the rest of the day. And we're like, oh no.
You
And
had the what
so
exchange? You had a stare
we
exchange?
like it was the weirdest freaking thing ever. And I didn't even realize it at that moment, that I hadn't had time to process my thoughts, because I literally was there that morning. I knew it was going to be a hard day because they pre-warned us. Me, Larry, I think my Uncle Jerry was there, family and stuff. And so they're talking about it. There's, okay, Rachel Smith was standing right in front of me. We were right behind prosecution. And I happened to glance up because I was trying to tweet out all the things. So it kind of keep me busy. Well, I happened to notice she was standing up and she had some photos and she they were face down, but then when she pulled them up, I could see just a little bit. And I didn't even see anything really, I don't think, but I was just like, it triggered me and I couldn't escape my own mind. I was like, I put my earbuds in and I was trying to find any song on YouTube that I could just blast through my ears. And I was trying to dissociate, basically. I couldn't get out of my body fast enough, I couldn't get out of that courtroom. But you can't make a lot of ruckus, and I would. I'd be the one. And so I was just trying to hold my shit together, basically. And finally we went to break. And so I was like, Larry, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to go meet mom. Mom didn't go because she was smart. And so I walked to their condo and I helped my mom unload groceries. She was going to make spaghetti. And then we got a phone call and they were like, hurry, get back to the courthouse, or get to the courthouse because she's not wanting to testify the rest of the day. Well, so we run back up there. We get back into the courtroom before they shut the doors, right before they shut the door. And Judge Boyce was like, he basically ruled that she had to stay there. She couldn't check out. And so me and mom left and I started to think and I was like, oh my God, before I left, for the day, before I left, before that, at that break, her and I, everybody was like, all rise, and so we were doing all that. And her and I just locked eyes, but it's like, I don't remember looking at her directly, or how when you look at somebody, you communicate with your eyes, you communicate in a sense, especially if you're staring at each other.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And so it's like I kind of zoned out or looked straight through her, or I don't even know. I really don't. But it was just this weird, long, awkward stare exchange. And then,
So,
whatever happened.
but she knows who you are, right? Like when
Oh
she
God,
looked
yeah.
at you,
Yeah. That
yeah.
picture, there's, yes. And so it makes me wonder, I'm not saying that, oh my God, I'm the reason. I'm just saying it makes me wonder, did she see something in me that spooked her? Did she see her victims in me? I hope she did. I hope the hell they were like, hey girl, and I hope so.
Yeah,
I
Salty says that she can see the resemblance.
JJ, yeah.
Yep.
I
100%.
never heard that before, but JJ's birth mom, Mandy, she told me that and I was like, what? Really? And then I see my brother and my kids, it's interesting how that works. I also see my brother like in my uncles. Sometimes Uncle Charles every now and my Uncle Bobby. Yeah. But I mean, we're all related, so but thank you for saying that. That's sweet. Poor
So how do
kid.
you want to wrap this up? Do you want to like try and get through the rest of the memo, or do you want to save it for another night?
It's like 20 pages or 12 pages, or I forget how many pages.
Oh,
but
good grief! Holy cow!
you're more than welcome to. My mouth's already dry. It's dry.
All right. Well, let's
But
wrap
I
it
need
up
to drink
then.
more water. I need to drink more water.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I'm not a thirsty person ever, but I always have a dry mouth because I'm probably thirsty. But I don't know how to. I don't know. What do you want to do? Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna pull up that. Remember how I was telling you about? Let me go to my videos real quick. In my whoop. It was the LDS Church of Satan. It was. Hold on. You go ahead and talk. I'm gonna hush. That's while I look for it. Oh no, that's not it. Okay. And I have a video on the Glen Pace Memo. I do. It's done. I could have just played it, but you can't stop every sentence and break it down because it needs to be broken down.
This was good. This is like the back and forth is good because you got to stop sometimes. I got to stop sometimes, and we got to like hash this out.
There's so many correlations, and I mean, especially once we get through it, it's going to make a lot of sense. And hopefully a lot of people have already read it. And then maybe I can find a link too. That way you can share it in your description and I can share it in mine.
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, here it is.
But we need to keep going on Tuesday nights. So I'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, definitely. See you next Tuesday. And did you know that see you last Tuesday is cult? Anyways. Yeah, I know it's a nerd. I'm a nerd, but I have it right here in 8 minutes, but that's up to you. It would just read. No, I like going point by point too. I like going point by point. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
You like what?
I like going point by point as well.
Yes, A to B to C to D to.
Yeah, and just connect them or not. Go through them, see if they relate or not. Now, okay, here is this.
Sources, origins. The LDS Church of Satan's members taught their children that their group.
Oh, wait, I haven't edited that yet. Let's not do that one. This is my brother and Mandy right there. Well, if I point at it, then.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't have it ready. So let's just not. Let's not try to do it. Just say Kresha no. So there's that. Oh, I hope so, Britt.
Then
thank you for
that. Let's end with this. Let's end with Trace sent me this video.
I know I didn't read it till after. I was like, I did the wrong video.
That's all right. We got it now. We got the right one.
I love hearing her voice.
Turn your volume up. It's low.
Say your ABCs, JJ.
Oh, that's mine?
Say your ABCs.
No. I'm saying to everybody. It's hard to hear.
A, B, C, D.
I actually can't hear it. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
No, I know ABC's next time we choose
Yay!
Oh my
Say
gosh.
hi, Mama. Hi, Papa.
How sweet.
Say hi, Mama. Hi, Papa.
ABC.
Say hi, Mama, and hi, Papa.
Mama, hi, Mama.
Yes.
I mean,
How
it's just
sweet.
precious, you know. I love hearing Uncle Charles's voice. It's distinct, you know, and just to hear a kid just being a kid and saying his
Exactly.
blah, 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 blah,
Exactly.
blah, blah. And Uncle
Exactly.
Charles was all about milestones with JJ, and whereas Lori was not. She didn't celebrate the milestones, and they were, you know, they came later, you know, because of his issues, or his abilities, I'll say. Um, it's interesting to know that part, you know, that she didn't celebrate his milestones. I mean, that's kind of goes into play here with the rest of what we're learning, you know, with the SRA and all this stuff. So
Yeah. All she did was bitch about him to everybody that I've ever seen talk about how she talked to them about him. All she ever
yeah,
did
her,
was bitch about how
not
difficult
to
he
your
was.
face though. It's that passive aggressive, that judgmental, snooty tooty. I'm exalted. I mean, I guess when someone thinks that they're exalted, then you know, everything's off the table.
All right.
So
Well, you and I are going to keep JJ and Tylee's memories alive, and your Uncle Charles too.
and
So,
Tammy Joe.
and
No,
yep.
I feel like I leave them out a lot. Um, I don't have any personal stories besides I learned about them through these tragedies, you know. So they're always with us in our hearts, and you know, we just want
Yeah.
justice for them. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your community. Thank y'all for having me here again, and I will see you next Tuesday.
I appreciate you too. And what do you say about love?
It always wins. It was Uncle Charles.
Love
Uncle
always
Charles said
wins.
it. Love always wins. Bye.